I don't usually think of clocks as anything but background noise, just ticking, humming things that remind you time's still moving. But there's this one clock in my apartment that doesn't do that. It doesn't move forward. It counts down. I moved into this place a year ago. Old building, creaky floors, yellow light in the hallways, nothing fancy. The clock was already hanging in the kitchen when I got here, just a basic wall clock with a thin black frame and no branding. At first, I didn't even notice it was ticking backward. I just thought the second hand was acting weird. But then I realized it was counting down. Exactly 24 hours. Every day at midnight it reset to 24,000 and began counting down again. I figured it must be broken, just a weird antique. But when I tried to take it down, it wouldn't budge, like it was bolted to the wall with something stronger than screws. I even tried to pry it off with a knife, but the blade snapped, so I left it. Weird, but harmless. Or so I thought. About a week later, I started noticing something else. The moment the countdown hit 0, strange things happened. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. The lights flickered and every door in the apartment cracked open, even if they'd been locked. Once, I came into the kitchen the second it hit 0, and all the cabinet doors were swinging open, one by one, like someone was walking past them. I thought maybe it was in my head. Sleep deprivation, stress, whatever. I work from home and barely talk to anyone most days. But then, my neighbor stopped me in the hallway. She's in her 60s, quiet, always wears house slippers outside. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You still got that countdown clock in there?" I nodded. "Don't let it hit 0 when you're asleep. You won't wake up." She didn't explain, just walked away. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the clock tick down from 0010 to 000. And for the first time, the minute it hit 0, the hands kept moving. They spun wildly, clockwise now, so fast they blurred. I heard a hum, not from the clock, but from inside the walls. And then, silence. When I turned back to the clock, it had reset again, 2400 hours. But the date on my phone, was the day before. I had gone backward a day. Everything around me was as it had been yesterday. The food I ate was back in the fridge. Emails I had sent weren't in the thread. Even my bruised ankle from stubbing my toe was gone. Since then, it's happened 3 more times. Every time I'm awake at midnight, something bends. I've lost time, gained it. Repeated days I didn't want to repeat. Once, the clock skipped straight to 17:39:14, and when it ended, there was someone standing outside my window. Just watching. No face, just a silhouette. Now, I don't let the countdown finish. At 000100, I unplug the power in the entire apartment and wait. That seems to keep it still, but I don't know for how long. I've started to dream of a place with no clocks, just silence. Maybe if I stop waking up, I'll get to stay there. It's strange how quiet it gets when you're the only one awake in a house that shouldn't be empty. I was staying at my cousin's place while he and his wife were on vacation. Just me, their dog, and a 2-story house that creaked like it breathed. I don't mind houses like that. I grew up in one. You get used to the groaning floors and noisy pipes. But this one felt different from the moment I stepped in. There was a stillness, not peace. Stillness, like it was holding its breath. The first night, I was lying on the couch watching some slow documentary. The dog, Rocky, was asleep at my feet. Around 11:30, I heard a thump upstairs, not heavy, just like something fell. I paused the TV, listened. Nothing else. Then a voice. Faint. It said, "Hello?" I thought maybe I left my phone upstairs with a podcast playing. So I went up. Room by room, no phone, nothing on, and Rocky didn't follow me. He just sat at the bottom of the stairs, tail low, ears pinned back. I shrugged it off. Came back down, grabbed a drink from the kitchen. As I opened the fridge, I heard it again. But this time, it was me. It said my name, clearly, in my own voice. "Your name here. Are you there?" I dropped the bottle. It shattered on the floor. Rocky barked once, a sharp bark, and then ran straight to the back door, scratching at it like he wanted out. I opened it, and he bolted into the yard, disappearing into the dark. The lights in the house flickered just for a second. I stood there in the kitchen, frozen. Then I heard the voice again, only now it was louder, right behind me. "Why did you come here?" I turned around, nothing there, no one. I backed away, out of the kitchen, up against the living room wall. The light stayed on. The TV was off now, though I hadn't turned it off. Then, from the hallway, I heard a creak, like a step. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. But the house replied anyway. The walls made a sound I can only describe as laughing. Not loud, not human. A dry, wooden creaking in rhythm, like chuckling. I didn't sleep that night. Rocky didn't come back till morning. When I asked my cousin if anything weird ever happened in the house, he just said, "We don't talk to the house, and we don't answer when it talks to us." My apartment is nothing special. One bedroom, cracked tiles in the kitchen, weird smell in the hallway outside. But the rent is cheap and it's close to work, so I stay. The bathroom, though. The bathroom has always made me uneasy. Not because of how it looks. It's actually the nicest part of the place. Clean tile, old clawfoot tub, quiet fan, too quiet. I started noticing it a few weeks ago. Every time I took a bath, about 10 or 15 minutes in, I'd hear a faint knocking. Not from the door, from underneath the tub, just 3 taps. Then nothing. At first, I thought it was plumbing. Old building, creaky pipes, that kind of thing. But then I started testing it. Different times of day, with or without water. Even just sitting in the tub fully clothed. And always, after about 10 minutes, knock, knock, knock. Always 3. Always from directly below me. I asked my super if there was anything under there, crawl space, access panels, anything. He said no. The tub sits on a slab. There's nothing underneath it but concrete. But the knocking kept happening. One night I stayed in longer, past 15 minutes. I turned off the fan, let the silence build. At the 20-minute mark, the knocking started again. This time it didn't stop after 3. It continued, slowly, rhythmically, and it wasn't coming from the tub floor anymore. It was coming from the drain. I leaned closer, stupidly, trying to hear if it was just air or gurgling pipes. But I heard something else. A whisper. It said, "I see you." I jumped out of the tub so fast I slipped and hit the floor hard. I crawled to the door, dripping wet, and slammed it behind me. The next day, I bought a drain plug. One of those thick rubber ones you jam in tight. Haven't heard anything since until last night. At 3:17 a.m., I heard something heavy fall in the bathroom. I went in, heart pounding. Everything looked fine. But the plug was on the floor, and sitting in the tub drain was a single tooth. Human. I haven't used the tub since. I just wash at the gym now. But every now and then, I still hear it, 3 taps from the bathroom wall, just reminding me it's still down there, waiting. I don't know if this is a memory or a dream I had too many times to tell the difference. But I've looked for it, on maps, in forums, in old photos, and no one else seems to remember it but me. When I was around 9 or 10, my parents took me to this cabin in the mountains. We only went once. They don't talk about it. I asked my mom a few years ago, and she swore we'd never stayed anywhere like that. But I remember the cabin perfectly. It had faded red paint, a wide porch with 3 rocking chairs, and a trail behind it that led into the forest. The forest was different. It was too quiet. No birds, no wind, just stillness. The air felt heavier the deeper you went, like it pressed against your skin. I wandered off once while my parents were inside, followed the trail, barefoot. I don't remember why, I just felt like I had to, like something was calling. Eventually, I found a clearing. There was a circle of tree stumps, neatly cut, all facing inward, and in the center, a mirror, just standing there, a tall, freestanding mirror framed in black wood. No signs of anyone around, no footprints, just me, and it. I looked into the mirror. I remember this vividly. It didn't reflect me. It showed the cabin porch, empty. And then, slowly, the rocking chair in the middle began to move. I turned around, heart racing, expecting to see someone. Nothing. Silence. When I looked back at the mirror, the porch was empty again. Then the mirror cracked, one long, straight fracture from top to bottom. I ran. I told my parents. They said I was dreaming. There was no trail, no clearing, but I can still feel the dirt under my feet. I remember the way the trees leaned toward the path like they were listening. Years later, I went back. Drove around the same area with GPS, looked up old tourist spots, ranger station records. There's no listing for a cabin like that. But 2 weeks ago, I got an email. No subject, no sender. It was a photo. The mirror, in the woods, still cracked, still standing. I didn't respond. I just keep wondering if the forest remembers me too. There's a mirror in the hallway outside my bedroom. Full length, vintage looking, came with the apartment. I never thought much of it. I pass it every day, sometimes glance at myself, sometimes don't. But a few months ago, something started changing. Subtle things. At first, it was the way my reflection stood. A little too still. A little too stiff. Like it was waiting. Then I noticed it would blink at the wrong time. I'd blink, and it wouldn't, or it would smile just a second too late. I thought maybe I was imagining things, or tired, or both. Then, one night, I walked past it while brushing my teeth. I wasn't looking directly at it, just in the corner of my eye. But I swear I saw 2 of me, one behind the other. The first one copying me, the second, watching us both. When I turned to face the mirror, it was just me. Except my shirt was different. I went back to the bathroom, checked. My shirt was still the one I'd put on that morning. But in the mirror, it had no logo, just a plain black T. I didn't sleep that night. I covered the mirror with a sheet the next morning. The next few days were quiet. No weird reflections. No blinking out of sync. I thought it was over, until I came home one evening and found the sheet crumpled on the floor. No wind, no pets, no one else with a key. The mirror was uncovered, and the reflection wasn't standing right. I was at an angle, but the me in the mirror was directly facing the glass. He smiled. I didn't. I backed away, went to call someone, just anyone. But I froze in the doorway. The mirror wasn't showing my hallway anymore. It was showing my bedroom. Lights off. Someone standing by the bed. I shut the door, slept on the floor in the kitchen with the light on. The mirror's still there. It never reflects what's really in front of it anymore. Sometimes it's showing me things that haven't happened yet. Sometimes it's showing places I've never been. But the worst was last week, when it showed me sleeping. From above. Like someone was standing over me. And I haven't been able to find a camera in the apartment. Anywhere. I moved into this place a year ago. It came partially furnished. A couch, an old bookshelf, a few lamps, and one framed photo sitting on the mantel. I didn't think much of it. Just an old black and white photo of a man in a suit. No label, no signature, no name. I assumed it had sentimental value to the last tenant. I meant to throw it out, but it kind of fit the room. The man looked serious, maybe in his 40s, with a thin mustache and a stare that seemed to follow you no matter where you stood. Classic haunted house cliché, right? But it didn't feel evil, just there. At first, I started having dreams a few weeks in. In every dream, I was standing in a room I didn't recognize. Pale wallpaper, no windows, a ticking clock that I couldn't see, and the man from the photo sitting at a table staring at me. He never said anything, never moved, just stared. And I'd wake up, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. One night, I tried something dumb. I said, out loud, "If you want me to get rid of the photo, just give me a sign." I laughed after I said it. The lights flickered. And then, this still freaks me out, the photo frame fell off the mantel. Glass shattered, wood cracked. Except, the photo inside wasn't torn, wasn't even scratched. But the image had changed. The man was no longer sitting. He was standing, and he was closer to the camera. I packed it away in a drawer, didn't throw it out. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared to find out if it came back. But I started seeing the man outside the photo. First time was in the reflection of my microwave. Then in the hallway when I turned too quickly. Once, I swear, I saw him standing at the edge of my bed when I blinked awake at 3:12 a.m. Same suit, same blank expression. I decided to move out. Found a new place, signed the lease, packed everything. The night before I left, I had one last dream. But this time, the man spoke. He said, "Thank you for carrying me." I woke up gasping. And there, sitting on top of my packed boxes, I swear to you, was the photo, untouched, in a new frame. No cracks, no signs of ever being broken. I lost it, threw it down the trash chute. A month into my new apartment, things were fine. No dreams, no shadows, nothing weird. Until my neighbor knocked on my door. She's a sweet older woman, maybe mid-60s. She smiled and said, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you." I asked, "For what?" She said, "For the photo, the man in the suit, you must have dropped it." I love vintage things. I asked to see it. And there he was, the same man. But now, he was smiling. Last fall, I took a road trip across the country. Just me, my car, and a box of cassette tapes from my dad's old collection. No real plan. Just highways, gas stations, and motels with peeling paint and buzzing ice machines. It was somewhere in Utah when I started feeling tired. I'd driven 12 hours, hadn't eaten much, and my eyes were beginning to blur the road signs. So, when I saw the old neon vacancy sign blinking, "Welcome Travelers," I pulled in without hesitation. The place was called Sage Pine Lodge, one of those motels with parking right outside your door, faded brown shingles, and office lights that never quite shut off. There was no one at the front desk, but a little bell sat on the counter. When I rang it, a man appeared from the back, as if he'd been standing just out of view the whole time. He looked me over once and said, "You'll want room 103, you can park right next to it." I asked about the other rooms. He just said, "Only one available tonight." I didn't argue, I was too tired. But here's the weird part. When I parked my car, I noticed the numbers on the doors. 101, 102, 103, 105. Number 104. No gap where a door should have been either. Just a long stretch of wall. I figured maybe 104 was used for storage or being renovated. Happens. But still, weird. Room 103 was clean, basic. Scratchy bedspread, dim yellow lamp, curtain that wouldn't quite close. I took a quick shower, flipped through the TV channels, and crashed. Somewhere around 2:30 a.m. I woke up. Not suddenly, not scared, I just wasn't asleep anymore. I realized something was off. The room was still, too still, the kind of stillness that presses against your ears. Then I heard it, a faint knocking, not on my door, but the one next to mine, room 104. I sat up in bed and listened. Another knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Then a pause. Then again. And this time, something knocked back from inside. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I kept telling myself, that room doesn't exist. You saw the wall. But someone, or something, was inside it. In the morning, I told the front desk guy what I heard. He stared at me for a long second, then said, "There's no room 104, never has been." I insisted. I even walked him outside to show him the wall where it should have been. He just shrugged and said something like, "Road trips make people tired. Maybe you were dreaming." But later that day I stopped at a diner a few miles down the highway. An older waitress poured my coffee, made small talk, then asked, "Where you staying tonight?" I told her I stayed at the Sage Pine Lodge. She froze, then leaned in close and said quietly, "Don't sleep in the even-numbered rooms." I told her there were no even-numbered rooms. She just looked down at the floor and said, "They come and go." I looked up Sage Pine Lodge a week later out of curiosity. The first thing I found was a blurry article from 1987. A man was found inside room 104, locked in. No key, no record of him checking in. They said he was smiling when they found him, sitting up in bed, perfectly still. But the most disturbing part, his wallet was found on the nightstand. Inside was a driver's license, same birth date as mine, same name, same photo. Except the issue date was from 2 years in the future.